It was a blazing afternoon in the dusty village of Nzalizo, where the red earth cracked under bare feet, and tall palm trees swayed lazily in the golden light. The sky shimmered, heavy with heat. Birds chirped from the baobab trees, and the rhythmic pounding of fufu echoed from cooking huts, mixing with the rich scent of roasting yam drifting on the breeze. That was the day he arrived. A stranger, tall, dark-skinned, with broad shoulders and a silent, watchful gaze, appeared at the edge of the village like a shadow stepped out of the sun. His clothes were old and dusty, a faded tunic and torn sandals. Over his shoulder rested a wooden hoe, worn from use, but not by him, because his hands, though dark and calloused, were too clean, too groomed for village labor. No one had seen him arrive. No cart, no companions, no greetings exchanged. He simply walked in as if he belonged. And yet he didn't. Not to them. Women carrying firewood slowed their steps to get a better look. A group of boys who had been playing soccer with the wrapped-up rag ball stopped mid-game. The murmurs started almost instantly. Who is this? Does he think we're blind? City boy in villager's clothes. Look how he walks. One elder peeked over her cooking pot and narrowed her eyes. His spirit is not empty, she muttered. He hides something. Still, no one approached him directly. The stranger made no introductions, asked no questions. He simply kept walking through the sun-baked village square, past the market stalls and side-eyed stairs, heading toward the very edge of Nzalizo, where the largest cocoa farm stretched over acres of land like a brown carpet waiting for harvest. It belonged to Chief Dade, the wealthiest man in the village. The stranger reached the farm gates, adjusted his hoe on his shoulder, and walked inside like he had done it 1,000 times before. The workers already in the fields paused, hands shielding their eyes from the sun. Who is this now? Look at his sandals. They'll fall apart before the first row. Maybe he's here to steal bananas. The laughter rolled across the field like thunder. Women giggled behind baskets of cocoa pods. Older laborers spat into the soil and shook their heads. Children gathered near the fence, whispering jokes, eyes wide with curiosity. City Mouse wants to be a village rat. One of them chuckled. Let's see if he can even lift that hoe. But the stranger said nothing. He simply chose a spot near the edge of the rows, pressed his foot into the soil, and began to work. And work he did. Not like a man pretending, not like a man desperate, but like someone who understood discipline, precision. He dug with smooth, wide swings. He cleared brush without complaint. His rows were cleaner. His rhythm never broke. Sweat dripped from his brow, but he didn't slow down, not once. By the time the sun had started its descent, his section was the neatest of all. The other laborers slowed, watching him now with confused stares. Their laughter had faded. Only the children remained playful, still circling from a distance, still teasing. But the stranger, he simply smiled. That same calm, knowing smile. Later that afternoon, while the workers rested beneath a tree drinking warm water from calabashes, the stranger sat alone under a palm tree. His lunch was modest, just roasted plantain wrapped in banana leaves. He didn't beg for food. He didn't try to join any group. But he watched. And he listened. That's when she saw him. Amma, daughter of the yam vendor, paused while passing by. She was balancing a clay pot of water on her head, and her eyes caught his just for a moment. There was something about the way he sat, not proud, not broken, balanced, calm, like a lion lying in grass. She saw the glint of something, not gold, but dignity, a presence. She lingered for a moment too long, then quickly walked off. By evening, the village had found its new rumor. The strange man worked harder than Kojo ever did. I still say he's faking it. Maybe he ran away from the city. Maybe he's hiding from debt. You think he's a spy. But none of the guesses were right. No one knew his name. No one knew his story. Only that he had arrived without warning. And now he worked like he had something to prove, or something to protect. That night, as the village drums played softly from the square and fireflies danced in the darkness, the stranger washed his face near the stream and looked up at the stars. He didn't lay in the workers' hut like the others. He chose to sleep under the open sky, resting his head on a folded cloth. Some said it was strange. Others said it was pride, but he knew what it was. Freedom. And beneath the stars, he whispered to himself, "They'll see me. Not because I tell them, but because truth reveals itself in time." Then he closed his eyes and slept with peace, because he had planted the first seeds, not in soil but in doubt. Among the people of Nzalizo, where gossip moved faster than the harmattan wind, lived a young woman named Alma. She wasn't the wealthiest, nor the most outspoken. Her voice wasn't loud, but her presence had weight. She walked with grace, spoke with calm, and observed more than she spoke. People in the village called her Quiet Fire. Alma was the daughter of Mayesi, the yam seller, who ran a small stall near the village square. Alma helped her mother during the early hours, slicing tubers and preparing meals. But her mind often wandered, not out of boredom, but curiosity. She saw things that others missed. Body language, silences, glances too long, smiles too sharp. And that's why she noticed him, the stranger. While others laughed and threw words like stones at his back, Alma watched him from a distance. Each morning, as the villagers gathered with baskets and blades, the stranger would appear silently with his wooden hoe. He chose the farthest corner of the cocoa fields, worked without complaint, and never asked for water or rest. His movements were not frantic, but they were purposeful, smooth, rhythmic. He bent his back to the earth, not like someone trying to prove something, but like someone keeping a promise. To Alma, he didn't seem like a man desperate for coins. He looked like a man who had chosen to be here. That puzzled her. One hot afternoon, the sun beat down like fire from the sky. Even seasoned laborers wiped their brows with trembling hands. The stranger kept digging. Alma passed by with a pot of water balanced carefully on her head, heading back from the stream. She hesitated, then walked to where he knelt. He looked up slowly. Sweat trickled down his temple. His chest rose and fell with steady breath. But his eyes were calm. Alma gently lowered the pot, scooped water into a calabash, and offered it to him. He took it with both hands, not carelessly, but with deliberate respect. He nodded. "Thank you, sister," he said. Just those words, deep and warm. Alma nodded back and walked away. She didn't speak of it to anyone, but the next day, she quietly left a bundle of roasted plantain and boiled groundnuts beneath the palm tree where he took his lunch break. No name, no note. The following day, she left grilled tilapia wrapped in banana leaves. And every time, it was gone when she returned. Not thrown away, not mocked, eaten with gratitude. But the village noticed. Nothing stayed secret in Nzalizo. One afternoon, as Alma cleaned cassava beside her mother's stall, a group of younger girls snickered near her. "Feeding the ghost boy now." One whispered just loud enough to be heard. "Careful, Alma," said another. "You don't know where he sleeps at night." Alma didn't respond. She simply kept scrubbing the cassava. But inside, she felt the heat, not of shame, but of silent defense. Why did it bother people so much that she was kind? That evening, her mother asked, "Is there something you need to tell me, child?" Alma looked up. "No, Ma, but sometimes I think people laugh when they're afraid." My yes, I frowned. Afraid of what? Alma thought for a moment. Of someone different. Someone they don't understand. Alma began to watch more closely. One morning, as the sun cracked open behind the hills, she saw him walk barefoot across the dewy path. His steps were sure, his back straight, even with a hoe in hand and dust on his knees. He carried himself with a kind of silent royalty. Not arrogance, but awareness. She noticed his nails, still trimmed, his beard, neatly kept, even in rough days. And when he spoke to others, rarely, but respectfully, his words were chosen with care, like someone used to being heard, not just listened to. Alma's curiosity grew into something deeper. Not love, not yet, but something between respect and wonder. Why would someone like him come here? If he was truly poor, why didn't he beg? If he was running, what was he hiding from? She asked herself these questions, but never pushed for answers. Instead, she kept bringing food, kept watching from a distance. And one day, he surprised her. She returned to the palm tree and found a small folded note placed on top of the empty food wrap. It wasn't a love letter. Not even a message. It was a simple drawing. A lion, lying peacefully under a tree. No signature, just a sketch. Amma held it in her hands and smiled faintly. From that moment, she no longer cared what others said. People could call him a beggar, a fool, a ghost in rags. But Amma had seen something they hadn't. She saw the lion in silence. And sometimes, that was all the truth you needed. As days melted into weeks, the rhythm of the cocoa farm changed, but not in the way people expected. The stranger, now known among whispers as the Quiet One, had begun to earn the silent respect of the village workers. Without boasting or begging, he became a quiet leader. He never raised his voice, yet people watched him, imitated him. Even the laziest farmhands began cleaning their tools the way he did, rinsing them with care, drying them on cloth. This shift didn't go unnoticed. Atop the cocoa estate sat a mansion carved with pride and power, and in it lived Chief Dade, the wealthy landowner whose name echoed through village markets like thunder. His voice was the law, his wealth unmatched, and his son, Kojo, was nothing like him. Kojo wore silk shirts even in the heat, laced his neck with fat gold chains, and walked the farm paths as though the ground was too poor for his feet. He never worked the land. His only labor was polishing his rings. So when he saw the farmhands murmuring about the city-looking boy with clean nails, Kojo's eyes narrowed. He didn't like it. He liked it even less when Amma, the girl who had refused all his advances, began smiling at the stranger. Kojo had tried everything to win her attention. Fresh mangoes, perfume from the trading coast, even a goat during the last harvest festival. She had thanked him politely, but coldly. And now she smiled at a man with dust on his shoulders? No, Kojo would not allow it. One afternoon, the sun was cruel, and the air hung heavy like soaked cloth. The stranger had just placed his hoe beside a stack of woven baskets, ready to join the others for lunch. Kojo stepped into view, flanked by two of his idle friends. They were laughing at something meaningless, but their eyes were sharp. Kojo glanced at the stranger's tools, then at the watching workers. Without hesitation, he uncorked a small gourd of thick red palm oil and poured it over the wooden handle of the stranger's hoe. The red liquid soaked through the grain, staining the wood, making it slick and nearly useless. The crowd gasped. "Oops!" Kojo smirked, loud enough for everyone to hear. My hand slipped. He leaned in. "Maybe you should go back to the gutter you crawled from, before we drag you there ourselves." The laughter that followed was sharp and painful, but the stranger said nothing. He looked down at his oil-soaked tools, then calmly took a piece of cloth from his pocket. He crouched and began wiping them clean, one stroke at a time, silent, focused. That night, the moon hung low, a golden eye watching the land. The villagers had gone to sleep. The fires had dimmed, except one. Near the edge of the cocoa fields, a small fire crackled. The stranger sat beside it, sharpening his tool gently under the stars. He didn't sleep in the huts. He never did. Instead, he rested beside the earth he worked, as though he trusted the land more than the people. Amma approached quietly, her steps light as wind through leaves. She sat down across from him without a word. The flames flickered between them. "Why do you let them treat you this way?" she finally asked. He looked up, his eyes reflecting the firelight. Her voice was soft, but tinged with frustration. "You don't fight back. You don't speak up. Don't you care?" He smiled, not mockingly, but like someone who had heard that question before many times. "A lion doesn't roar in a chicken coop," he said calmly. Amma blinked. "Are you a lion?" He chuckled, not loudly, just enough to stir the air. "No," he said, "but I have seen them, and I've fed them too." She stared at him, puzzled. The night wrapped around them. Crickets chirped in rhythm. The scent of cocoa leaves and smoke mixed in the breeze. Amma felt something stir in her chest. Not love, not yet, but a feeling like standing on the edge of something important. She stood slowly. "Maybe you're not a lion," she said, "but you don't belong in this coop either." He didn't reply, only nodded. She walked away, casting one last glance back at the man by the fire. And in that moment, she was certain there was more to him than anyone knew, and soon they all would. The morning began like any other. Roosters crowed across Nzalizo. The red earth was warm underfoot. Smoke rose lazily from cooking fires, and the cocoa workers gathered near the fields, stretching and mumbling greetings. The stranger, as always, arrived first. He wore the same faded tunic, the same sandals, the same calm expression. But something in the air was different. Even the birds were quieter. By mid-morning, the sound of a rumbling engine broke the usual silence. Heads turned. Children ran to the road. Farmers squinted against the sun. A large black SUV, shiny, tinted, and foreign, rolled down the dusty path into the heart of Nzalizo. It was followed by two more. Dust danced around the tires as the vehicles came to a smooth stop near Chief Dade's estate. The villagers gathered quickly, whispering and guessing. Was it the government? A film crew? A visiting prince? Out stepped a tall man in a crisp white igbata embroidered with golden thread. He wore dark glasses, had a trim gray beard, and walked with the confidence of a man who owned both land and time. Two uniformed guards stood beside him. He raised his hand, his voice deep and commanding. "I seek the rightful owner of this land." Chief Dade strutted out from a shaded veranda, wrapped in fine kent, gold glinting from his neck and wrists. "You found him," he said proudly. "I am Dade, chief of this village and master of these cocoa fields." The man in white didn't even look at him. He gestured instead to the middle SUV. The doors opened, and out stepped the stranger. But he was no longer dressed in rags. He wore a tailored cream caftan with golden trim. His sandals were leather polished. His beard trimmed to perfection. Around his wrist, a gold watch. Around his finger, a lion's head ring. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Women covered their mouths. Men blinked in disbelief. Kojo, standing nearby, went pale. He took a step back, his fingers tightening around the chain on his neck. The stranger's eyes scanned the crowd, calm as always, until they met Ama's. She was frozen, a bundle of cassava leaves in her hands. The man in white cleared his throat. "This is Kwame Oteng," he announced, son of the late cocoa magnate Nana Oteng of Kumasi. He inherited his father's lands, accounts, and shares last year. The silence was deep enough to hear the wind shift. The man continued, "This farm you've been working, Chief Dade. It sits on land owned by the Oteng family for generations. You've farmed it, profited from it, and claimed it. But today that ends." Chief Dade's mouth moved, but no sound came. Kwame, no longer the stranger, took a step forward. His voice, calm and collected, rolled over the crowd like distant thunder. "I came to see how a man is treated when he is believed to be no one." He looked directly at Kojo. "I worked beside your people, ate their food, slept on their soil. I was called gutter boy, ghost, thief, but I remembered something my father once told me. The truth needs no trumpet. It walks in silence, then speaks like a storm." Kojo tried to laugh. "You tricked us." Kwame's eyes narrowed. "No, you revealed yourselves." He turned to the crowd. "I met kindness here. Real kindness. From a girl who shared water. From elders who nodded without asking. From children who forgot to tease when they saw sweat on my brow. And I also saw greed, entitlement, abuse of power." He looked at Chief Dade. "Your lease is done. The land now returns to me." The chief tried to speak, but no one listened. Kojo, in frustration, shouted, "You think we care about your gold?" But no one stood with him. The workers had already begun walking toward Kwame. That night, the village square was alive, not with gossip, but awe. Fires burned brighter. Drums echoed deeper. And at the center of it all, Kwame Oteng stood humbly among the same workers who had once doubted him. He promised fair wages. He handed out farming tools with engraved names. He gave Ama's mother a new stall in the center market. And to Ama, he handed her a carved wooden box. Inside was the drawing, the lion, still lying peacefully under a tree. She looked up, and he said softly, "I never forgot who saw me first." She didn't answer, but her smile said everything. Nzalizo would never be the same again. They had mocked a man in rags, only to bow before the king in silence. And now the lion had roared. The sun rose differently over Nzalizo that morning. It didn't just warm the red earth, it lit up new hope. Villagers gathered in the square long before the drums were struck. Word had already spread like fire in dry grass. Kwame Oteng, son of the great Nana Oteng, had not only reclaimed his father's land, but had chosen to stay. Not as a king above the people, but as a brother beside them. Gone were the suspicions. Gone were the whispers. Now there was awe, respect, even regret for those who had mocked him when he wore dust and silence. That day, Kwame walked through the village not with guards or fanfare, but alone, wearing a simple white tunic. No gold chains, no shoes, just humility. At the edge of the cocoa fields, he stopped. Dozens of workers stood in front of him. Men who once laughed behind his back, women who once whispered. He raised a hand. "From this day forward," he said, "the land we work will feed your families before it feeds my bank." Murmurs, then silence. He stepped closer to the oldest worker and placed a wrapped parcel in his hands. "Your land deed," Kwame said. "It's yours now." Gasps, then cheers. One by one, he handed out titles, small plots of cocoa land gifted back to the very people who had kept them alive with sweat and calluses. Not leased, not borrowed, given. To the mothers who cooked for the fields, to the children who fetched water, to the men who once ignored him but never betrayed him. Kojo. He stayed inside the chief's compound, peeking from behind wooden blinds. He could feel the gold around his neck burn like shame. At the market square, Kwame approached my ESI, Alma's mother. Her stall was old, crumbling from termites. Kwame placed a small leather bag before her. She opened it, seeds, tools, and a deed for a new concrete stall in the center market of Kumasi. "For you," he said, "and for the daughter who sees beyond dust." My ESI wept silently. And Alma, she watched from across the road, unsure if she was still dreaming. He walked to her slowly, like the breeze after rain. No crowds, no speeches, just two people who had once shared silence under a palm tree. He stopped a few steps away, pulled something from his pocket. It was the same drawing, the lion beneath the tree, now pressed into wood and carved with fine hands. She touched it gently. "Do you still feed lions?" she asked, a soft smile on her lips. He looked into her eyes. Only the ones who can see them before they roar. That evening, the village lit up with song. Drums echoed. Fires burned high. Women danced in wrappers of gold and green. Men slapped calabashes and clapped hands. Children ran barefoot, shouting tales about how the stranger became the king. Kwame didn't sit in a throne. He sat on a stool beside the drummers, laughing like he had been born among them. But when the dancing slowed and the sky turned deep blue, he took Alma's hand and led her to the sacred baobab tree. There, he planted something in the soil. Not gold, not coins, but a cocoa seed. And he said, "This will grow for the next generation." She looked at him. "Will they know it came from a stranger?" He shook his head. "No, they'll know it came from home." From that day on, Nzalizo changed. The cocoa farm doubled its harvest. Children went to school. The well was rebuilt. The chief stepped down quietly, and Kojo left for the city, never to be seen again. And in the evenings, when the air was cool and the stars began to blink, villagers would gather under the baobab tree, where Kwame now told stories. Sometimes with Alma beside him, sometimes with her head on his shoulder, and always with that lion carving placed at the base of the tree, to remind them all that power needs no gold and truth wears no crown, because sometimes the most powerful roar is the one spoken in silence.